Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and welcome to the Not So Serious Keto interview series where my guest today is Nili from Indigo Nili. That's her channel. Welcome, Nili.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I can say that that is probably the most times I've ever said Nili in like 10 seconds.
Well,
But
I'll correct you real quick. It's Neely, like
Nili,
yeah,
well, then
the.
maybe we should do a restart.
Oh, that's fine. Whatever. I answer to anything because I have a weird name. So
Okay, well, from now on, I will make sure that I say Nili.
sure.
And we won't do a restart so people can see that I'm human.
Yeah, we're
Not
real.
as if they ever doubted that. But
Yeah.
so when I announced in last week's podcast that you had agreed to be a guest on this interview, I got a lot of excited responses. I don't know if you went and scrolled through the comments and saw,
I
but
did.
you've got an awful lot of fans
Oh well, I love
that
them so
also
much.
watch my channel. But
Yeah.
for those who aren't familiar with you, how would you describe your channel?
Oh well. Do you have like an hour? Because it's not just one thing. Um, I have had my channel for a long time. I think it's been over 10 years now.
Oh, I got to interrupt for just a second
Oh,
because congratulations on hitting 100,000
oh,
subscribers.
thank
I
you.
saw that happened recently. Okay, now you can
Yeah,
continue.
sorry. Yeah, so that was really exciting. If 10 years ago someone had told me that I would have a YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers, I would have just said they were crazy. I never expected my YouTube channel to get to the point that it is. And it's been through a lot of iterations. I didn't start it as a keto YouTube channel. And so basically, I'm a stay at home mom of 5 kids. And in order to make my channel even exist, I have had to basically just film things that I'm already doing because
Mm.
I don't have time to have a second hobby and film that. So I do a lot of like cook with me videos, food prep videos, and I've my channel has kind of followed me through all different diet iterations until I've gotten to this point. So if you go back to like the very beginning, there's lots of different kinds of diets, and it's just been like what I'm interested in at the time. I had a lot of interest in instant pot videos
Mm.
when I started doing those, like right when the instant pot came out, and that's kind of what first went viral for my channel. And so I got a lot of subscribers that are really interested in instant pot stuff. So I kind of went that direction. Wrote a cookbook for the instant pot, and then it's kind of just evolved as I've evolved with my eating and finding kind of my baseline diet in the ketovore world.
So that brings up something I was wondering about because over the last 3 years of doing keto and having a YouTube channel myself, I've discovered that there is a very wide spectrum of how people define keto, from
Yes.
a very rigid, strict, disciplined, and precise keto to so relaxed that it probably would be better just to call it low carb. Where on
Yeah.
the spectrum do you fall?
So I describe my personal diet as a ketovore diet. And what that means to me, like even that doesn't really mean anything until you kind of define it. It's basically just a keto diet, which is low carb. Like the definition of keto diet is slow enough carb that you're in ketosis.
Yep.
And then beyond that, I focus on protein. So I had tried high fat, moderate protein before and felt pretty awful on
Mm.
that. And I had given up keto at that point, thinking that keto didn't work for me. And it wasn't until a while later that I discovered that it was the protein that was missing. So I kind of tend towards carnivore, but not all the way carnivore. Is if I keep my carbs fairly low, like, no more than 30 usually, and then keep my protein really high and make up the difference with fat, that's where it's kind of my sweet spot.
So do you find uh, people, some of the more rigid keto people taking issue with the way that you do it or your recipes?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, whenever you put anything out on the internet, especially YouTube, you're going to have people that take issue with it. So I would like to do a video actually where I something like 3 keto foods I don't eat and 3 keto non-keto foods that I do eat,
Mm.
just to kind of drive home the point that like there's no keto diet. It's just whatever. It's like a metabolic state. It's not a
Yeah.
food. And
I mean,
go ahead.
oh, I was going to say that's exactly what Dr. Eric Westman says. There's a video, and I link right to the point where he says it in case I need to, use it in a comment to show somebody.
Yep.
This is a guy who's been doing keto and teaching keto and studying keto for over 20 years at Duke University. So, I kind of am going to believe him before some random stranger that leaves a comment telling me
Yeah.
something isn't keto. But he
Yeah.
said there is no such thing as a keto food. Keto is a metabolic state, exactly what you said.
Yep.
You're either using fat as fuel or you're not. And I think there are a number of people in the keto community that get way too hung up on what is the definition of keto,
Yes.
and kind of it just they're like segmenting the audience too much. We should all just get along. Hey, we're all keto. We're all in ketosis. Why can't we be happy?
Yes, and finding what works for you is so key
Yep.
because for me, for example, I do not do well with nuts and almond
Mm.
flour and coconut flour. And so all of these keto foods, like I feel better eating the regular versions of stuff. Not that I feel good eating those things, but it's not like the almond flour makes me feel any better. So really like starting at a baseline of, following somebody that has put out a plan, following that, but then beyond that, starting to tweak and to figure out what works for you is so important. And it's taken me 20 years in my journey to get to the point that I am now. And I'm still learning and finding out things that do or don't work for me. And it's not from some guru telling me, here's your
Mm.
list of yes foods and here's your list of no foods.
So how long did it take you to get to where you are with keto? And what how did you settle on keto?
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story. I wish I had one of those stories where it was
I
like,
think all of our stories are long stories.
yeah, that's what I think is you hear those stories out there where it's like my life was terrible and then I found keto and everything's better. And it's way more messy than that. And like you said, I think most people have those kind of stories so they can relate more to those kind of stories. And for me, I actually was my heaviest in high school. So like 20 years ago. And I started the Atkins diet when I was 19, right before I got married at age 20. And it's funny now looking back on it, I think what would have been different if I had just stuck to Atkins all these years, because I find
Mhm.
myself now very similar to the way I ate then when I did the Atkins induction diet. But that's where my weight loss journey started. It was the Atkins. I read the book. It was my very first diet ever. I was totally sugar addicted. I mean, processed food, standard American diet, all of that. And I just wanted to lose weight, for my wedding. That was my only reason. And I started the Atkins diet. I lost like 40 pounds in the first 2 or 3 months, just like magic. And then from there, I decided that I would figure out nutrition. Like it was so interesting. And when you go through that giant transformation, it's like you really it's just addictive almost, where you just want to keep going. And
Mhm.
so I remember going to Barnes and Noble and getting like the nutrition Bible or something like that. And so I started reading all of this mainstream nutrition information. And it was like, well, you need carbs. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm going to, move beyond Atkins and really dig deep in this nutrition thing. And just from there, I also started having kids. So it was not like a linear journey. I started trying to do like Weston A. Price diet and paleo and different things like that, with lots of carbs, and kind of chasing this idea of health with carbs, and never quite getting as far as I wanted to. I never went back to as heavy as I was before the Atkins diet. Or as unhealthy as I was before then, but I never, got rid of all of the things that I really wanted to get rid of. And it was in, I think, about 2000. Well, it was about 9 years ago when basically when keto, the name keto first came around, back when Jimmy Moore was doing his nutritional ketosis experiment. And the big revelation from that was people doing low carb are eating too much protein and not enough fat. And you just need to bump your fat way up and get your protein moderated. And I decided to give keto another try at that point. And I did that for a while, and man, that just destroyed me. I felt so bad. And like
So
my
in what
hunger,
way did you feel bad?
yeah, my hunger was out of control. It was like I could just eat and eat and eat of all of these high fat, lower protein foods like fat bombs and,
Mm.
sticks of butter with whatever. I would do like a half a stick of butter with a couple of eggs, scrambled eggs, and just trying to get that super
You're
high.
making me hungry.
Yeah, it sounds good. But I would just eat and eat and eat. It's like I could eat like 3 or 4,000 calories of these foods and never feel satisfied. And so after that, I was like, well, I guess keto doesn't work for me and I need carbs. And I was like, oh, now looking back, I'm like, no, it was the protein. So I went back to trying to do some other different diets that included carbs, and kind of the same cycle. And then it was about 3 or 4 years ago when carnivore started becoming popular. And I first got introduced to carnivore through Kelly Hogan. She did a interview on a podcast, and I just remember her talking about being low carb and struggling with cravings and hunger, and then going carnivore and like upping the protein and upping the meat, and how that fixed everything for her. And I was like, maybe I'll give low carb one last chance.
Mm.
And I started doing that. I did like a 3-month carnivore experiment, and it just totally changed my life. Really, had some incredible results from it. But then again, it's not a perfect story because it was right after that 3-month carnivore experiment that I got the offer to write my cookbook. And my cookbook is not keto, definitely not carnivore. The publisher had, what they wanted from it. And so I decided, well, I will go ahead and do this, and then we'll get back to, diet after that. And so I kind of took almost a year off to do the cookbook, which was an incredible experience, something I'm glad that I did. But it was after that that I really started to dial in my diet and kind of discover that I didn't have to go completely carnivore in order to get the benefits that I was seeing. Because it was kind of a struggle, and maybe you can relate to this. The idea of going carnivore and restricting my diet so much when food and recipe creation and stuff is a big part of my creative outlet. It's like taking away my palette of colors, for if I was a painter or something. And so I really struggled with the idea that I would have to give all that up in order to get to the place of health that I really wanted to get. And it's just been a kind of slow, for the last couple of years, experimenting with different foods and figuring out what, like we talked about, what works for me and what doesn't, and how it doesn't have to fit in a box that somebody else created. It doesn't have to fit into the carnivore box. It doesn't even fit into the keto box because there's tons of keto things that I
Mhm.
I choose not to eat because they don't make me feel well. So I just kind of slowly developed my baseline diet. That's what I call it. I don't like to call it on and off plan or cheating and not cheating. I just call it my baseline diet. And I like I said, I'm still evolving with it. I still continue to tweak. I think I probably always will, as I get older and things change and stuff. But that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am. So it's not like an easy story of this is where I was, this is what changed, and now this is what I am, from here on out. It's an evolving story. And that's kind of what my YouTube channel is, following along with that evolution.
Now, you had mentioned before, you have 5 children. Uh,
Yes.
and let's not count animals because I know you got a lot of those as well.
Yes, we
Um,
do.
so your 5 children, your husband, how do they eat? Are they keto? Are they low carb? Do they follow along with you, or do you find that you're kind of cooking 2 separate meals every night?
Yeah. So short answer, no, they're not keto. I do obviously have influence on what they eat. Um, they don't eat a standard American diet. I wouldn't call it that. I would really like for them to all eat more of like a paleo diet, maybe like a paleo with dairy type diet, whole foods, basically. Get out the processed foods. That's hard in this culture that we live in, going to birthday parties and stuff. So,
Mm.
what I try to do is keep the food at home very clean. If that's a good word for it. Just very whole foods. And then when they go out, they're free to, partake in whatever is being offered. But so that's kind of my kids. And then with my husband, he has the metabolism of a hummingbird, and he has never struggled with weight. He's always been, very, very lean. One time when we went to a gym, we were doing like the initial test where they test your body fat and stuff, and they gave him the body fat tester thing that you hold, and they looked at it and they're like, "Oh, this must be broken. It says
Mm.
you're only 6% body fat." And they got another one and tested it. He wasn't broken. He was 6% body fat. And so he's never been very low carb, but he started having his own health issues that had nothing to do with weight. And because of, what I have been doing with my diet, he's like, I think I'm going to start a little bit lower carb. And he's done that. He started upping his protein, eating very low carb breakfast, basically, and then having carbs later in the day. And his energy and, the issues that he was trying to resolve really have gotten better. So, not keto by any means, but he has taken some steps in that direction that have been really positive.
Well, and every step that a family member takes away from the standard American diet is a good step. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny. I think the definition of low carb is less than 300 grams of carbs per day. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty telling number when you look at that as low carb in the
Yeah.
American diet.
I can't imagine being on a high carb diet, whatever that would be.
Yeah, it blows my mind what that would be like. So, do you do any sort of personal measurements in terms of ketones or blood glucose or anything like that as you are tweaking your diet?
Yeah, so I was really into testing blood glucose, and I did some blood ketone testing several years ago, kind of back when I was doing the nutritional ketosis thing. And I got a lot of good information from that, and it was really helpful. One thing I kind of glossed over in my story is that I did struggle with like body image and, getting a
Mhm.
little too obsessive with the measuring and the diet and all that. And so I spent a lot of time and energy with all those kind of testing things. And I got to the point where for my mental health, I had to really let go of a lot of that, let go of the control. So I haven't done it in a while. But just recently I got a tone device from Ketogenic Girl, or the Optimal Protein podcast now, Vanessa Spina. She came out with her own device that she developed, that tests breath ketones.
Mm.
So I have started using that. I've had that for probably 2 months. And it's super easy and super cheap. Well, it's an initial cost, of course, but then it's cheap because you don't have to buy any kind of test strips or anything like that.
Mhm.
And so in the last 2 months that I've been using it, I have been in ketosis all the time, basically in fat burning mode. She has her own little scale of the ranges, and I'm always in fat burning mode. So
So you talked about the data aspect and body image, and I'll get to your cooking in a minute. But one of the things that I noticed and what drew me to your channel is what I witnessed in the cooking video, which is you are very process minded. It's right on the edge of design of experiment, sort of sciency.
yeah.
It was clear to me that I had found a kindred spirit in that regard.
Yes, I feel
And
the same way when I watch your videos.
oh, thank you. And the thing is, then people like us, we like data. We like having spreadsheets,
Yeah.
and we monitor this stuff. And the issue that I find is when you're looking at stuff daily, that's where you really got to sort of temper it. You said the emotional aspect of it, because you see, like, it's so easy to swing your emotions. Oh my gosh, I lost 7/10 of a pound, and my ketones are at this. And then the next day you're like, well, I just put back on a pound. And how did you distance yourself from that love of data versus the emotional reaction to it?
Yeah, I think for me, it got to the point that I didn't love it. It was more like it was controlling me, and so I kind of had to let it go and like have that recognition that I'm not in control. I talk a lot in my videos about letting my body tell me things and listening to the feedback that I get. And I'm the kind of person that if I am interested in something and I want to figure it out, I just put my head down and I don't stop until I figure it out. Kind of like with the egg white bread, which is what I've done. Just keep working on it, tweaking it. Let's try this. Let's try that. And I found that that approach did not work for me in changing my body the way that I wanted to. And I just had to let go of it and recognize that that kind of approach that I was having was actually giving me like opposite results. Like I was pushing my body so far in an attempt to lose weight that it was trying to, put on weight and keep weight and like hold on to it. And so it was like, it's like I was going full speed, steam ahead. And then I was like, well, this is just not working. And so I went through a pretty long period of just kind of giving up the idea that my body would ever change, that I
Mm.
would lose the last bit of weight. And I was having children during all this time. So it's not like I was trying to lose weight for, this long period of time. I'd be having a baby and then it would be trying to lose the baby weight and then having another baby. And so it was kind of this roller coaster, but I just had to put away the idea that I would ever get to the size that I wanted to get to. Um, and it just it had to happen, like just for my mental health. And then since I've done that, there's often in the diet world there's this knee jerk reaction, like data. If you're having trouble with body image and dealing with the data, then you should just give it up and it's bad. The scale is bad. Testing
Mhm.
your ketones is bad. It's all bad, and no one should do it. And I don't believe that at all. I think it was unhealthy for me in that place where I was, but now that I've kind of given that up and, released that control, I am able to now look at the scale and see it as what it is. It's just a number. Look at the ketone number on the device. It's just a number. And I can use it in a healthy way and not, I don't have to moralize the data anymore. It's just data, which it should be.
So you mentioned in that the egg white bread, which
Yeah.
is where I suspect a lot of people discovered your channel. So this started, the protein sparing modified fast bread
Mhm.
that was, I think, originally created by Maria Emmerich. I don't know if she got the idea from anybody else or if it completely germinated in her brain.
What's that? The
But
cloud bread. Did you ever have the cloud
oh yeah,
bread?
yes, yeah, cloud
Which
bread.
has
I've
the
had.
egg whites in it. But yeah, she's the one that definitely with the egg white protein powder, like the mastermind behind that.
Yeah, the cloud bread, I recall doing that, I think perhaps back when I did Atkins myself 20 years ago, just whipping it up, and putting it in the oven and making, a little bun.
Mhm.
And I didn't love it then. And the I tried out, like probably most people, I can't throw out the acronym nearly as fast as I can actually say the words, the protein sparing modified fast
Yes.
bread. And first off, the top, winds up collapsing in. And then I'm eating
The
it and I'm thinking,
sides.
it kind of, yeah, it's not a pretty looking bread. And then, the taste to me was it just reminded me too much taste and texture of like angel food cake without the
Mhm.
sugar.
Yeah.
And a number of people, I think you included, have described it as memory foam.
Yep.
So when I saw the thumbnail of your bread. I'm like, wow, that's a good looking loaf of bread. How does she do that? And then I started watching your videos, and immediately, like I said, I saw that process minded, iterative food science attitude. And I'm like, oh man, I cannot wait to see where Neely goes with this.
Awesome.
So tell me how you got into that, making that bread, and and then also what have you seen in terms of viewership on your channel and membership?
Yeah, so the way that I got started making the bread is actually kind of funny. I said before, my husband decided he wanted to go lower carb, and that was about 8 months ago, 9 months ago. And he is a contractor and he drives a lot for work, and he has to have food that he can eat while he's driving. And I would always make him breakfast sandwiches. And so when he wanted to go lower carb, I was like, we need to figure out something that he can eat while driving. And I had seen the egg white bread, and I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and give that a try. I personally had given up on keto baking like completely since I had thrown away, all the almond flour and stuff. I
Yeah.
was like, and I was very happy just eating, I had been eating Whole30 paleo type, just whole foods. They're great. And so I was really happy with that. But then it was my husband that spurred me on to really start with the egg white bread. And so I made that for him, and it was really good for him. And then and I started to enjoy it as well. And I found that my response to it, like my hunger and my satiety after eating it was so good because it's pure protein basically.
Mhm.
And it was just completely different, a different response from my body than any other type of baked good that I'd had before that was, full of cheese or full of almond flour, coconut flour. And so it turned into like this really positive thing in my diet where it was keeping me full, it was upping my protein, as like all good things. And so then, of course, I was like, well, let's see if we can make it taste better because it was great. Like it's a great recipe. Like kudos to Maria for coming up with that
Mhm.
recipe. It's brilliant. And but I always, am trying to tweak things and make them better. And then also for my husband who is not keto, trying to get him to like something when he's just, been used to eating regular bread, regular pasta, all of these regular things. You have to work a little bit harder to get something that's palatable to them. I think a lot of us on keto, we can get comfortable with the keto foods, and then we're like, this tastes amazing, and
Yeah,
give it to
the
them,
bar gets
and
lowered.
they're like, this is terrible. So that really spurred me on to continue to perfect it and just to make it better, whatever I could. And then it was just I had mentioned the bread on I think it was a Costco haul video. Just mentioned that I was making that for my husband for the breakfast sandwiches because I had shared about the breakfast sandwiches I used to make for him on the channel. And I got lots of comments saying, share the recipe, share the
Mm.
recipe. And so I made that one, the very first egg white bread video for my channel. I just followed Maria's recipe and showed my experience. There was no changes. And that video, last I checked, it was getting close to 700,000
Wow.
views. It kind of went viral unexpectedly, and I started getting so many subscribers from that and so much interest from that that it spurred me on to share more keto recipes. I kind of moved away from sharing diet stuff and keto stuff because I was more focused on Instant Pot
Mhm.
recipes. And I felt like, and every time I would share a keto recipe, I didn't really get a lot of views. And so I didn't think people were interested in my keto stuff. So I was sharing more like what I make for the family. That's just more regular food. And but then once I started sharing about the egg white bread, I got so much interest from people, and that really encouraged me to do it. I always say that my YouTube channel is for me, and I share whatever I want to share, and I don't, just try to please people. But at the same time, it's like a two-way street where when they're really excited about it, the viewers, are really excited about what I'm sharing. It
Mhm.
makes me really excited to share more. So it really has been like a collaboration with the viewers and the commenters and trying to, work hard to address some of the issues that people were having when trying to make the bread and troubleshoot and all of that. And so it's kind of just evolved from there. And now it's like I feel like there's nothing like bread wise, there's nothing you can't make with the egg white bread base recipe. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I for a long time, well, pre-keto, I loved to bake and would make artisan bowls of bread and sourdough and stuff. And then then I went keto, and I have found that having baking knowledge is more of a handicap when it comes to keto
Yes.
because you need to unlearn everything you learned about
Yes.
flour and sugar and yeast and things like that.
Nothing is transferable.
Yeah. And then, for the longest time, I was trying to come up with a hot dog bun, and I was, relying on almond flour and coconut flour and things like that, and just not getting there. And multiple times that sort of just broke my spirit. And then, watching what you have done with the protein sparing modified fast bread, I'm like, okay, it's grilling season is approaching.
Yep.
Time to revisit the hot dog bun. So
Yep.
I'll probably be stealing one of your recipes,
Do it.
and of course, I will link to the original in my video. But
Yep.
um, you've given me hope that a hot dog bun is possible again.
Oh, it's so possible.
I've also heard your Hawaiian rolls are pretty amazing.
Yeah, I have to give credit to Amy, Carnivore's Angel. She was the mastermind behind those, and they're incredible. I've kind of tweaked it like I tweak everything. I can't ever do something somebody tells me to. But yeah, Amy is the one that really put those on the map.
So this next question is probably going to be similar to who's your favorite child, but
Oh,
do you have a favorite recipe or favorite creation that you've made that you're most proud of?
um, the butter buns. I don't know if you've seen those. They are
I'm not.
phenomenal. They're so good.
I'm
Like
let me
yes,
I'm gonna
they
I'm
would make
making a
a
note
really
right
good hot
now.
dog bun if you did them in the right shape. Um,
So that's
they're
the one you recommend for a hot dog bun?
I think so. I think so. Like the
But
flavor is just so good. Yeah. And
all
then
right.
there's another one that I did, and I know not as many people because it's pretty specific, but it's olive rosemary, like Kalamata olives and
Mm.
rosemary bun, and I used olive oil powder in that one. So good. It's like doughy and melt in your mouth. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, making another note here.
Yep.
All right. Probably my view, and I don't even feel bad about like taking time away from the interview to write down notes because my guess is that most of the viewers right now are also simultaneously
Nice.
writing that down. In fact, what I will do for the sake of my viewers is I will link to both of those recipes down in the description below.
Perfect.
So, continuing on the topic of YouTube, what would you say has like been your best YouTube or no? What do you like most about being a YouTube content creator, and what do you like the least?
Ah. Um, so I for what I like the most, like I said, I've had this YouTube channel for about 10 years now, maybe 11 years now. And just I basically had it my whole experience of having babies. So I was a stay-at-home mom, having a baby every couple of years, and that time is it can be very isolating for women. And it's hard to get out and be social and have friends. And so to just have this like avenue to share my life and what I'm going through and what I'm excited about and have like the response from people it's just been invaluable. So that's definitely has to be my favorite thing about it. Least favorite, so it's kind of like my favorite thing about it is being able to share and have feedback. My least favorite thing about it is sharing and have feedback because with all there's 1,000 good comments and then you
Mhm.
get like these few negative comments and I, I I have grown so much in letting those things go. Like it used to really bother me, but then the longer you do this, you just realize it's just going to happen, and it doesn't really it's not really a reflection on you. But I think probably the things I struggle with the most is when people criticize my parenting, or say
Mm.
I'm and it's I can't please everybody, because I get people that say, anyone that eats keto and doesn't feed their kids keto, it's child abuse. And then I get another person saying, you don't give your kids sugar and junk food, that's child abuse. And you're like, well, I give up. But those are the things that bother me the most, is when people like, tell me I'm doing bad by my kids.
So one of the things, and I'm going to kind of continue on this, but maybe get slightly more personal on this topic, because I wonder myself, I get a lot of nasty comments, and it's amazing what people feel comfortable saying to strangers on the internet.
Yeah.
Parenting, for example,
Yeah.
or well, just anything. I mean, you get dozens of comments a day that are nasty. You get hundreds of comments a day that are wonderful,
Yeah.
and you do your best to kind of deal with both. But what I wonder is, as a woman, is it harder based on the fact that people can be meaner? And by that, I want to make sure that I phrase this the right way. One of the things that I had witnessed in like online gaming, Xbox, PC gaming, is just how horribly people treat women. There are a lot of guys out there that are just not gentlemen.
Yeah.
And I've seen other YouTubers break down in tears talking about some of the comments that they get that are just so personal and mean spirited. Do you feel that women as content creators get it worse than guys?
Um, I don't know that I would say that men get it worse than guys. I feel like um guys can, and this is very a generalization,
Mhm.
guys can be more abrasive and more blunt, and so it invites more abrasive and more blunt comments back. And women can be a little less that way, and so I don't know that it invites the same kinds of comments. Um, I have not experienced a lot of like bullying,
Mm.
um, that kind of thing. I One thing that I do though is that I don't engage with nasty comments. If I get a nasty comment that's just meant to be mean and to tear me down, or
Mhm.
just whatever it is, I just block them. I don't respond. I find that the trolls are looking for a response. Like that's what they
Yep.
want. And if I don't give it to them, it's like it doesn't ever snowball. And so I really have not had a lot. But then, I mean, my YouTube channel, as it grows, I know there will be more. Um, and then I also will mention, I'm not, I don't do a lot of sharing before and after pictures.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, especially in the diet world, a lot of before and after pictures, in bikinis and different things like that. And I don't do that. And so I think I don't invite as much of that criticism, just because of the what I choose to put out there and what I don't. So
Yeah, you brought up the block button, which is a wonderful, wonderful YouTube tool as a content
mhm,
creator.
yes,
And you do this long enough, you can tell when people are just out there to sort of troll you and be nasty and be mean. Plus, I'm sure as you go through your comments, you see certain names over and over again. You're like, oh, that's a regular viewer, that maybe they were just having a bad day. That this
yeah,
is not just someone that popped in and is trying to be mean.
yeah,
So I don't wield the ban hammer with recklessly. But like you, I found that early on when I'd get these comments, it's like you want to go full out keyboard warrior on them, and then
never
you're fueling that negativity in yourself as well. And that block user button, hitting that it's cathartic. I mean,
have.
you're just like, whew, and 10 seconds later, I don't even remember the name of the person that left the comment.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, but if you had gone in and had a conversation, gone back and forth, it might have ruined the rest of your day. Yeah. I've gotten to the point where I can get a comment and hit the block and move on and not think about it. Early on, definitely not. It was a lot lot different. One thing that I like to remember is when I get a negative comment, and I read it, I have already given that person more time and energy than they deserve. Just reading their comment. They don't deserve anything else from me. I've already given them more than they deserve. So that's a good thing to remember. And then I also think in YouTube and in the internet, it's like there's a snowball fight going on.
Mhm.
And when you put up a video, it's like you're standing up in front of the snowball fight and you're gonna get hit. And
Yeah,
those
on
snowballs
both
are gonna be
sides.
going. They're gonna be going, whether you put your video up or not, you just happen to be the one that put up a video. So it's you have to have that perspective and you have to be able to wash your hands and walk away and have a good day afterwards.
And you had mentioned in our last conversation, the one that isn't on video, that one of the things you remind yourself of is unless you've taken time to respond to every positive question,
Yes.
you shouldn't take the time to respond to any, negative comment.
Yes, I heard that advice. I think it was from Justin Rhodes, who is a homesteader YouTuber, and it was so transformational to me. It's like, no, I haven't gone back and hearted every single positive comment. I haven't gone and said thank you to all these people who said nice things. Why would I take time away from that to engage with this person who I'm not going to change them by my response. It's futile. Yeah.
Is there anything looking back on your 10 plus years on YouTube that either you would do differently or share as a lesson learned for other people that may want to start a channel?
um i I don't know that there's anything I would do differently. I feel like with my channel I've always done whatever I could. And it's like you just put it out there and it's like that's what it is. It is what it is. Being that I always say I have 5 full-time jobs and YouTube can't be a full-time job for me. It has to just fit in wherever it fits in. And so I can think of ways that I could have made my videos better, but I didn't have the time to do that then. So it is what it is. I did go through a period of, I guess I would call it paralysis, where when I first started making videos, I wasn't really aware of all of the things that people would take issue with.
Mm,
Um, I would, put something out and then I'd be like, what? One of my videos that first went kind of viral was cooking a whole chicken in the Instant Pot. And I didn't wash my chicken before I put it in the Instant Pot, which it's not even recommended anymore to
no.
wash because it spreads anyways. The number of comments I got about how disgusting I was and how disgusting it is to eat a chicken that hasn't been washed, but that has been cooked under pressure for 30 minutes. Anyways, it took me by surprise. Like I did not expect that at all. And like the vast number of comments was just mind-boggling. And so I started having those experiences and it was like I got to the point where I felt like I couldn't do anything because I was like, "Oh, someone's going to have an issue with that and someone's going to
Mhm.
see this and someone's going to, have this be a problem." And it was like I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed and I just kind of had to get over that. Um and so that's what I would encourage people to do is just do something. You are never going to make everyone happy. Just do your best, put it out there. You're going to probably get snowballs hitting you, but I mean, that's YouTube. That's just how it is. And it's so rewarding, on the other side. It's worth that.
So, final question is there a recipe out there that's still your holy grail, the thing that is either flummoxed you, infuriated you in trying, or that you've yet to try, but is the thing that you want to make, and it's no one else has done it in keto or done it well.
Um, let's see. It seems like there is something, but now it's not coming to me. I really wanted a good pasta that was easy, and I was really excited with the carnivore pasta that I developed recently. I feel like there could be some tweaks to make that better, to be an even better pasta substitute. So that's something I will probably work on. I think maybe some kind of a cracker that's not almond flour or coconut flour based. Um, yeah, something that's more protein than nuts and seeds. Maybe a cracker, because it's hard to get a very uh, crispy result when you're using a lot of protein.
Mhm.
So yeah, I do have like an egg white cracker that I've done with my crepes where I dry them out and they're crispy. But there's something in me that's like, I think it could be better. Yeah.
So, once we get off camera, I think we have a collaboration opportunity here because there's
Oh,
something that I was working on a lot at the tail end of last year. This multi-purpose, it's a batter that could be used to make sheet pasta, like lasagna noodles. It could be used to make roll-ups, like for enchiladas. It could be cut up and dehydrated into chips.
yeah.
And I felt 95% of the way there, which I often describe as the absolute worst place to be with the recipe,
Yes.
because for the next year, you only drift backwards from 95. You try a little change, and then you're like, okay, I just made this worse. How
Yes.
you know how can I make a change to make it better? And maybe if the two of us work on it, we can crack that code.
Absolutely. I'm down for that.
Sweet. So, is there anything else that you would like to share um, with folks before we put a bow on this?
Well, I think what I just want to say is thank you for what you do for the keto community. There's so many people out there that are just like in it for the self promotion, it feels like, and just trying to, put the spotlight on themselves. And I don't get that sense from you. And I really appreciate that genuineness that you bring to this community and all that you do for it. So I think that's all.
Oh, thank you. I'm blushing right now, but I'm fairly bashful. I'm an introvert, and
Same.
you know, it's as exciting as it is for me, like periodically to be recognized when I'm out and about. Um, I get very self-conscious about it. I get, even putting out a video, people will make a comment like, it's clear you just love looking at yourself and love your voice. And I'm like, No, really, I don't. It's laborious for me to even edit a video and look at myself and listen to myself.
Yes.
So generally I put out a video and I'm like, done. I
Yes.
don't have to look at that anymore.
Yep, I'm the same way. Yeah, I felt like we were kindred spirits when I heard you talking in one of your podcasts about being an introvert, because I definitely am. And it's kind of a really weird place to find myself as a YouTuber with, hundreds of thousands of people that have seen my videos. It's so mind blowing. I never would have imagined. But yeah, I feel like we're similar in that way.
Yeah, I think you talk about if someone told you 10 years ago, or someone told me 3 years ago, that this is what we would be doing and this is the sort of subscriber base we would have, I wouldn't have believed them either.
Yep.
It is
Yeah.
for the worst days that I have doing this job, it's still better than probably the best day I ever had working in corporate America,
Yeah.
because it's so rewarding being able to interact with the community. And I hope that the community enjoys these interviews as well.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
So I think with that, we're going to wrap it up and say goodbye. Ah, I just banged my knuckle on my desk right there. All right, I was getting ready to do the old, thanks for watching, double thing, and so bringing my fingers up, banged my desk. So
Yeah, human.
thank you, so much, Neely, for joining us, and thank all of you for watching.